What happens after 30 days of ashwagandha is not what most people expect. You go in thinking you're going to feel a little calmer, maybe take the edge off a rough week, but somewhere around day 20 or 25, something shifts that's harder to explain. It's not that you feel sedated or floaty, it's that situations that used to completely derail your day just don't hit the same way anymore. That's the conversation we need to have today, because this isn't really about a supplement. This is about what happens when your stress response gets reset from the ground up. Stay with me here, because we're going to go through every layer of what actually changes. And by the end of this, you're going to understand why some men come back to this after 30 days and say they feel like a different version of themselves entirely. Let's start with what most people already know but don't fully understand. Ashwagandha is classified as an adaptogen. That word gets thrown around a lot, but what it actually means is that it helps your body adapt to stress rather than getting crushed by it. The key mechanism here is cortisol. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, and in the modern world, most men are running chronically elevated cortisol without even realizing it. You wake up already slightly tense. The day piles on. By the afternoon, you're running on fumes and irritability, and by evening, you can't switch off. That cycle is what ashwagandha interrupts. Studies have shown meaningful reductions in cortisol levels after consistent use over several weeks. And here's why that matters more than people realize. When cortisol is chronically elevated, it doesn't just make you feel stressed. It suppresses testosterone, disrupts sleep architecture, increases inflammation, clouds your thinking, and keeps your nervous system stuck in a low-grade fight-or-flight state basically all day. You are not operating as the best version of yourself. You are operating as a stressed, depleted version, and most men have been doing this for so long they think it's just normal. Layer 1 of the transformation is the stress response reset. This is the biggest and most noticeable change for most people around the 30-day mark. You stop overreacting to small things. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and instead of a 10-minute internal rage spiral, you let it go in 30 seconds. A project at work hits a problem, and instead of your chest tightening and your thoughts scattering, you problem solve. The stress response doesn't spike as fast, and more importantly, it doesn't linger as long. You go from living in a constant state of low-level alarm to something that actually resembles emotional stability. That shift alone changes the entire quality of your day. Layer 2 is what I'd call calm energy, and this distinction is critical. A lot of men hear the word calming and immediately think sedation. They picture feeling sluggish, unmotivated, mentally dull. That's not what happens. What actually changes is the quality of your energy. Instead of that wired, anxious, jittery state that crashes hard around 3 p.m., you get something more even, more sustainable. You can focus without forcing it. You don't have that constant mental friction where your brain is simultaneously trying to do the task in front of you and process 17 other things at the same time. Calm does not mean tired. It means operating without unnecessary interference. And when you experience that for the first time, it becomes immediately obvious how much energy you were wasting on stress that served no purpose. Layer 3 is sleep and recovery. And this one is a multiplier for everything else. One of the more consistent things people report after 30 days is falling asleep more easily and sleeping more deeply. Now, this connects directly to the cortisol reduction we talked about. When your cortisol stays elevated into the evening, it fights against melatonin, keeps your nervous system activated, and makes genuine deep sleep harder to access. When that cortisol baseline drops, the transition into sleep becomes smoother. And deep sleep is not just rest. Deep sleep is where testosterone is primarily produced. It's where muscle repair happens, where memory consolidates, where your emotional regulation systems reset for the next day. So when sleep quality improves, everything downstream improves with it. Energy improves, mood improves, drive improves, clarity improves. Sleep is the foundation, and ashwagandha supports it indirectly but powerfully. Layer 4 is mental clarity, and specifically, the reduction of overthinking. This one tends to surprise people because they weren't necessarily expecting it. There's a kind of mental noise that comes with chronic stress. You run the same thoughts over and over. You second-guess decisions you already made. You replay conversations and project worst-case scenarios. Most men have normalized this internal static to the point where they don't even notice it's happening. Then around week 3 or 4, something gets quieter. Decision-making feels easier because you're not wading through as much noise to get to a clear answer. You're more present in conversations. You stop catastrophizing the minor inconveniences of daily life. It's a subtle shift, but it compounds into something significant over a month. Layer 5 is the hormonal angle, and we need to handle this one carefully because there's a lot of exaggerated claims out there. Research does support that ashwagandha can contribute to modest increases in testosterone, particularly in men who are stressed or in suboptimal hormonal states. The mechanism is largely indirect. Lower cortisol means less cortisol-driven suppression of testosterone production. Better sleep means more overnight testosterone synthesis. Reduced inflammation creates a better hormonal environment overall. Is this going to be a dramatic transformation? No. But if you're someone running chronically high stress with chronically suppressed testosterone, bringing those levels up even modestly has real effects on drive, mood stability, and how you feel in your own body. Position this as support for your hormonal baseline, not as a magic solution. Layer 6 is emotional control, and this might actually be the highest value change of everything we've discussed. There's a version of you that reacts, that snaps at people, that gets defensive under pressure, that lets frustration build up and then releases it at the wrong moment. And there's a version of you that's composed, that responds instead of reacts, that can sit in a difficult conversation without your nervous system hijacking your words. After 30 days of lowered cortisol and improved sleep and reduced baseline anxiety, you start living more in that second version. You become more patient, more measured, more able to hold yourself together when the situation is genuinely difficult rather than only when everything is easy. That emotional control is what builds trust with the people around you, and it's what separates men who command respect from men who constantly have to manage the fallout from their own reactions. Layer 7 is anxiety reduction, and this one is straightforward but worth naming clearly. A lot of men carry background anxiety that they've learned to function through. It's that constant low-level tension, that feeling of being slightly on edge even when there's nothing specific to be anxious about, the sense that something could go wrong at any moment. It becomes such a persistent part of daily life that it feels like personality when it's actually physiology. When cortisol drops and the nervous system gets some genuine regulation, that background noise starts to quiet, not in a medicated way, in a way that feels like breathing room. Like your baseline has shifted toward ease rather than toward tension. So here's the honest summary of what 30 days actually looks like. The first week or two, you might not notice much, maybe slightly better sleep, maybe a bit less edge to your day. Then somewhere around days 18 to 25, the shift becomes undeniable. You catch yourself reacting differently, staying calmer in situations that would have spiked you before, thinking more clearly, sleeping harder, feeling more like yourself in a way that's difficult to articulate but immediately recognizable. This is not about becoming a different person, it's about removing the interference that was always getting between you and the person you actually are. Chronic stress is not a personality trait, it's a physiological state, and when that state changes, your life experience changes with it. If you found this useful, there's more on hormonal optimization and daily performance right here on this channel. Drop a comment below with where you're at in your own journey, because these conversations matter, and I read them. See you in the next one.